what prompted Indira Gandhi to declare emergency, how it was implemented, and what may have prompted her to go in for elections and lift emergency. Sri Chiranjeev Singh, Mr. Marusudhapa, my friends, and Sugata. I'm happy to be here with you for the launch of my friend Sugata's book, The Conscience Network, which chronicles the resistance to emergency in America. I have a very remote personal connection with emergency. I had just completed college when emergency was declared and was happening. Some of my friends and others who were running away from the police, I, in fact, had given refuge to some of them in my home for extended periods. Luckily, they were not caught, and I was also not caught. And that is a very remote personal link with emergency. Always the other link is that I have written about emergency at various periods during my journalistic career. And now I have read this book also. Emergency is the most commented upon event in our post-independence history. Every aspect of it has been studied. Books have been written, studies have been made, articles are there. Even last week, when there was the 50th anniversary of emergency was observed, there was a spate of articles. All these generally concentrated on what prompted Indira Gandhi to declare emergency, how it was implemented, and what may have prompted her to go in for elections and lift emergency. There is also a lot of material on the resistance to emergency within the country. But we don't get so much information about the resistance to emergency outside the country, especially in the US and the UK. There was a lot of resistance. There is even a view, as it was mentioned here, that the movement against emergency, the campaign against emergency outside the country may have even been a factor that decided, that prompted Indira Gandhi to go in for elections, probably because the most recent book on Indian history that I read was India After Gandhi by Ramchandra Guha. There's a chapter on emergency there. He goes into some detail about whether there was any pressure on Indira Gandhi to lift emergency. He quotes, he says it's just speculation. In the absence of specific information and material which is still classified, we cannot hazard a conclusion that there was any influence of what happened outside the country on Indira Gandhi. But he quotes Bernard Levin, etc., articles written by persons like Bernard Levin and letters written by Indira Gandhi's friends and probably friends of India about emergency. We do not know whether they had any influence, but perhaps Indira Gandhi was, we know, considered to have been a narcissistic person who was in love with herself. She may have been worried that her image is perhaps suffering. It's actually not her image, what she thought, her idea of what others thought about her. Then that's the image, that's the kind of image people who are in love with themselves, don't really go so much out of themselves to think about what others think about them. But perhaps this may have happened. The reputation as Jawaharlal Nehru's daughter and as a Democrat, she may have been worried. But whether this is, but we don't have much information about all this or what happened outside the country that against emergency. It's not just its impact on emergency, but this resistance to emergency outside the country needed to be studied on its own, for its own worth. And that's what I think Sugata has done so well, so comprehensively. We don't have much information about what happened in the US. He has given that in this book. And it's a very comprehensive book. It's a comprehensive account. It's not just a journalist's account. It's not a journalist. Sugata is not just a journalist. This book is written not by a journalist, but a journalist, a writer, a historian, a researcher, and a poet. He traces the history of the resistance to emergency in the US through the lives of some persons who went there, who founded an organization, Indians for Democracy, which was the main vehicle for protests and agitations against democracy in the country. And it's a technique. It's not a straight journalistic technique. It's not a narrative. It's not a straight narrative like we find in other journalistic accounts of events in the world. This is, as he himself says, there is a dramatic element in it. He himself calls the persons who waged this battle against democracy, he calls them dramatis personae. That means he themselves thought this to be a drama. There's a drama. And see, in fact, it's drama. It's with drama. It's with the play that you catch the conscience of the king, not just the king, but the spectators and the readers also. Probably that may have been a reason why this book came in a dramatic form. There is some drama. He calls the protagonists, in fact. You don't know, it's not throughout, it's not a drama, but there is some dramatic elements in that. In fact, I was particularly struck by a dramatic tool, which is often used in dramas. It is, see, even in a play, sometimes the narrator, the playwriter just steps back and says, see, this is, he takes himself out of the drama, out of the event, and then introduces the characters. Sugata, at least in the early parts of the book, he has stepped away from the narrative and says, this character, we'll see them later. This other character, it's not, he moves out of the flow of the narrative and introduces this. This is, in fact, a very, very remarkable dramatic technique. Brecht has used it, Bertolt Brecht. When the play is staged, he comes off the stage and tells the spectators, please see, this is only a play. Please don't think this is real. This is only a play. Don't be deluded by this. He thought this enhanced the impact of the play because identification of the reader with the play did actually hinder the communication of the play. Probably this may have helped. This particular dramatic tool may have helped in making the story more impactful. That's my reading. I'm not sure. I don't know if Sugata consciously thought of this tool also. Now, before I come to the contents of the book, I would like to talk about its form. This is, I told you, it's not a straight journalistic account. It's an account of a writer, of a researcher, and a poet also. We know poetry is the finest form of verbal expression. Drama is the most effective form of communication. We find a combination of drama and poetry here in the book. There is not a single page where you don't see a beautiful turn of phrase. And I sometimes wondered where these beautiful words were minted, in what fonts these exquisite words were minted. And that, the combination of drama and this poetry, see, like normally you don't see poetry in journalism, poetry, they don't mix well. Journalism and poetry, they don't mix. But then here we see that, and that has helped the book, I suppose, because, Mr. Maral Siddhappa would know about that. Not drama and poetry, when they combine, they are the best form of communication. We say Natakantam Kavitvam, Natakam and Kavita, when they combine, that's the highest, that's the acme of communication. That's about the form. Now about the contents of the book. This has been designed as the experiences of the persons who founded an organization. The story is told through their lives. These are persons who were in the US, who went to the US, who were idealists, young people who had they were students or young professionals who were not political, who had ideas about the country, who had ideas about the development. Their ideas of development were different from the mainstream ideas that we had in India, and then they were sympathetic to the movement that was happening in the country, the Jayaprakash Narayan, which challenged the established view of development. But it was when they were campaigning on that level, they were engrossed with that development idea that suddenly emergency happened, and they founded this organization and fought against it. And I don't want to go into all these details. I hope you all will read this book. But a couple of things that we have to notice is this fight, is at the personal level, and it was at the level of the organization. All these persons who started the fight, they evolved. They started as freedom fighters for the country's freedom from emergency. But they evolved into greater social beings. They were committed to a greater social idea. And that is the evolution. That's the evolution that happened during the months of their resistance. And this is the path. This is the evolution of human beings. They grew beyond themselves, beyond their own individuals. That's the thing. We grow. See what happens when you are part of a struggle. When you are evolving as a human being, you reach a higher level of existence. You have a higher goal. That at the individual level it happened, and I believe it happened at the collective level with the organization also. The organization which had first the goal of resisting emergency, later evolved into an organization committed to the bigger goals, the universal ideas of human rights. And that also, at the level of the organization also, this evolution was here. This is actually the end of all human activity. Whether it's an individual, whether it's an organization, you go beyond that particular level, you reach a higher level, you take a wider level of relation with the society. And that's what happened with both the individuals and with the organization. And also, see, Sugata gives a very comprehensive account. He gives the social and political situation in the US and in India, and in fact the world itself, wherever it's when I started reading the book, in fact, I started wondering whether all this was really relevant for what I thought was the theme of the book. But later, toward the end of the book, I found everything fell into place. So all the details fell into place, and it promoted that idea, and it enhanced that idea, and made that idea more effective. Otherwise, we would not have got such a comprehensive account of what happened in the US. And that is, it's not just it's the comprehensive nature of the book, but all the details had a particular purpose. They enhanced the idea of the book. I also would like to compare the book with Sugata's earlier book, Strange Burdens, that's about Rahul Gandhi, we all know. In that book, in fact, he was writing about the struggles of a person, of an individual, in dealing with the world. He was non-judgmental, I suppose. But he was sympathetic to his protagonist in that book. In this book, he is both sympathetic, he is judgmental. He is not on the side of emergency. He has sympathies with the characters, and the looming figure of Mrs. Gandhi. I mean, she is, in fact, she is also a dramatic. But she is a character in the book. She looms large on the book. She is a presence from the first page of the book to the last page. But he is not sympathetic to her. He is sympathetic to the people who fought the emergency, and the judgment is there. But then what we should notice is this writer's style of writing. Sugata has written books before. He has written about two characters before, two personalities. One about Devagowda, then about Rahul Gandhi. Now about 4-5 characters who created a movement. So, it's a way of looking at history. You are looking at history through some people. He's not just writing about their characters, he is writing about the history that envelops them, about the times in which they lived, and about the world in which they inhabit. This is a way of looking at the world through characters, through people. That's a more human history. That's not just an objective recounting of history. You are looking at through relations between people and history. That's human history. In fact, you say all writing, we say, is either one person's, it's about one person's dealing with the world, or more than one person's dealings with the world. See, all writing which has happened in the world can be categorized. Here we have got both these characteristics. I hope we will get more of such histories from Sugata. And I'm sure we'll all gain by reading this book. I have a couple of questions. I got a couple of questions also after reading the book. One is, now this book gives us some information about the vindictive actions taken by the government against the people who were fighting emergency. A scholarship was withdrawn. Some passports were cancelled. All this happened. I was wondering, this is what an authoritarian regime does to people who are fighting it. But did it happen only in the US? I was wondering whether it happened in India also. It happens, authoritarian governments go after the family members of the families of people or friends or relatives to put pressure on them. I don't know whether it happened. It's possible it could have happened. I was wondering, but there is no mention of that in the book. I don't know whether it was there. Then another question was, see, there is a lot of information about the channels through which this organization got information from India about various things, about constitutional amendments which were happening later, etc. These channels are not very clear. I don't know, I don't know whether it would have had any relevance, but there are these channels of communication between people in India and who gave information to the people, to the fighters in Indians for Democracy. I'm not sure. I saw something. I don't know if I missed it. Another point was, another question probably. See, except perhaps a person who was a key figure in the resistance, who was from Karnataka, most other persons were from the north. There are not many from the south in this resistance. Of course, I saw the name of one Krishnamurti, perhaps one Raju also, who is opposed. I was wondering why this was, whether it was dominated from the north. Because I was wondering about this because, you know, in the response to emergency also, there was this division in the country. While in the elections, Indira Gandhi and the Congress were totally rejected by the North. The South supported her. I don't know. The activities, this reflection, there was a reflection of this in the activities of the organization of the resistance in the country also, in America also. I won't talk for long. See, last time when G.N. Devi released and launched Sugata's book, he said, I am proud to be here, to be a part of this function. I am proud to be even in Bangalore, where this person is. He said that. I share that sentiment also. Thank you. Thank you very much.